I don't know how many people watch this show, but anyone that did, I think, is
Modest
was
hit, I
treated
believe.
was treated because this show, Watchmen, Damon Lindelof's remix continuation, however
Right.
you want to define it, wrapped up last night, and holy shit, man! Like, yeah, we just did our best of the decade, and we both have the leftovers near the top of our list. Check that out, uh, man. This show, hopefully, I'm guessing a Lindelof one-off. I don't see him coming back for a second season of this.
Doesn't
He
sound
actually
like
has
he
openly
wants to.
said he hopes if they do a second season, that a person of color directs it, because he said that most of the most interesting stuff was not
Right.
written by a white person going into this. This show for me is like a 100 out of 100, and we were obviously getting our end of year list together, and I was thinking, in most other years, if we didn't have Fleabag and Succession both also throwing 100 out of 100s, this would be easily. They're like four of the best episodes of television this year, in my opinion. Um, a lot to dig into here, but how are you feeling about Watchmen as a whole? And now that you've seen the finale.
Yeah. Oh, love it. I agree with the 10 out of 10 sentiment as well. You get the sense too that Damon uh, is just kind of happy he was able to create this due to his like requisite clout in the with HBO and the TV making community, because what he's interested in is not the traditional worldview. And by having a diverse writers' room that he led, you get truly just genius stuff. And obviously, this is full spoilers for the full season. I don't know why on earth you'd be watching this if you hadn't seen it. And another great show and great example of why week to week is a great viewing experience, because so many things that just stand out, like episode 6, which is very international assassin-esque, where the mystery box is finally opened up and you get to the central thesis of the show and why you get the sense that Damon wanted to actually revisit an IP that most people thought was completely final when it came out, Watchmen, of course. And Warner has done plenty of other comic stuff with Watchmen since, but this is the first time anything's ever felt creatively necessary. And the simple concept of, Watchmen, the whole conceit of the comic from Alan Moore is, what if, or why would someone ever possibly put a mask on their face and fight crime? Like, what makes you want to act that way and think that way, right? And Damon actually is able to play off that by introducing what if the first superhero was black and he had to cover his face to keep himself alive and actually be successful and protect himself and stuff. It's like, it's simple yet completely genius.
Yeah.
And the way the narrative is completely framed around that central conceit, with amazing callbacks and stuff that's unpredictable, while also sequelizing Watchmen by giving us more Adrian Veidt and Silk Spectre, and of course Dr. Manhattan. It's so joyous, man. I never in a million years thought it would be this impressive.
Yeah, this definitely blew away my expectations, and I think what I've reflected on most as being most impressive, and there's so much to like. I mean, the performances in this are top notch, and you obviously have Lindelof doing some amazing world building. We talked about that after the premiere of this show, so check that out as well. Is the pacing and the overall story development and strategy with it, because for the first 4 episodes, you know that there's something out there, but you're kind of led to believe it's like the cavalry, right? That it's this story about race, and certainly race is a part of it, but then episode 5 comes and there's this twist, and you kind of see that there's a lot more going on than you recognize, and then it takes a step back and it starts to just unveil through 6, 7, 8. 6, as you said, giving us a lot of backstory on Reeves and about race and how that played into his decision to wear a mask. And that's obviously an expert episode, but then you get an episode like a god walks into a bar, and you get that whole episode about Dr. Manhattan, and which I think is right up there with episode 6 is one of the most masterful episodes of TV this year. And just like it uncovered layer after layer after layer so perfectly leading up to the final episode, which I thought the finale last night was perfect. Not only in terms of, I think, having a really satisfying ending to this story, and wrapping up a lot of questions, but also falling back onto some of the original Watchmen themes to do so, and some of the old tricks. You get Vite being a hero again by doing something terrible that he did before. You get Manhattan kind of going back to the idea of like what it means, like how he struggled with the idea of like being a god, and how he actually was like planning to take away his powers, so to kind of like unburden himself, but I think also the world of the things that he was or wasn't doing. And then of course to end it with like the egg thing, and to have that last scene with Angela with her grandpa and all that. I think it just touched on so many levels and so many themes, and wrapped it up really well. And people joke around that not every thread was left untouched. Like, who's Loop Man? Like, yeah, we're probably never gonna find out. Probably Pete.
It's on PDpedia.
Yeah, but there's still like just so much to marvel at with this show. What else? Give me more of your thoughts.
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things to reflect on the show is that the way it ends is like a perfect grace note. Like, I don't really understand anyone who would want to clamor for season 2. I don't think of it as a cliffhanger with Angela eating the egg, which is an awesome callback to everything with eggs in the beginning, and the transfer of power and stuff. And it kind of reminds me of the way the Watchmen comic ends, where Rorschach's journal is sent to the press, and you're like, oh, will this undo Ozymandias' plan to save the world? Who's to know? But it's like, you don't need to know. Like, right. the message is landed already. And everything with Lady True was so good. And even the way they handled the Cyclops and the 7th Cavalry at the end, where it's like, you never like really legitimized them. They kind of just got treated like the goons they were.
Yeah.
And that was really satisfying as well. And then the cyclical nature of the way everything ended with Reeves back in the theater where it all began,
Did you notice as they left the theater that only the MR or the DR and the M were lit up on the sign? Yeah. So expertly done.
Yeah, and as you said with episode 8 too, I think the Watchmen movie from Snyder, which looks good and is pretty like faithful A to Z plot retelling. One thing that movie never was able to really communicate at all, and I think actually people that haven't read the comic probably weren't aware of this, but like the whole multi dimensional existence of Dr. Manhattan, how he's in all parts of his life at once, and what that can do to your psyche. That's not touched on really at all in the movie, but episode 8 communicates that in such an amazing way. And you'd think the way like we had that conversation happening in the past, and it's communicating stuff in the present and the other parts of the past, and Angela's narrating lots of it the whole time, and you would think that would be confusing or grating, but it never was. And I mean, Abdul-Mateen, who plays Manhattan and Cal, he was, I think, fantastic. And just watching him, when he comes out to fight off the cavalry, and you're like, oh, he's gonna reject everything, and it's like, nope, it's all part of the future he saw. And then later on, you hear, was it True or Vite? I think it was True who was like, well, Manhattan could have done more with those powers. And it's like, man, it's like, imagine like that existence and having all that, and whether it's actually like a gift and stuff. It's there's so much here. It was so great.
Yeah, and Abdul-Mateen, we've seen him most recently in like Striking Vipers or
Aquaman,
right? But he really showed me something with this role, and of course it's a much like more subdued role. Like Manhattan is a pretty melancholy character in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Burdened by, as you said, the weight of his powers. But I thought he was excellent, and we finally got to see the blue schlong in the last episode, looking good. Great blue schlong. You know, I was wondering how you felt about like all the stuff with Ozymandias, because he really. We talked about Greg Sprinkles earlier from an HBO show. This felt like Jeremy Irons sprinkles throughout, because you kind of got like little scene here, and it was a little bit more by the end than the end. And I felt like every time he's on screen, you're just having the best possible time.
Hell yeah. So from what we know with the production, like everything with Ozymandias at the manor was separate, like filmed in Wales and stuff. But by the end, you understand like it was a lot of confusion in the beginning with the manor and like these clones of Miss Crookshanks and the guy, I forget his name, and like the babies in the water and the ward, and like what the fuck is going on here? You find out we're on the moon of Europa, but then you realize for episode 8 that Ozymandias, someone who is so self-centered because of his intellect, he probably would not be satisfied with not getting credit for saving the world with a master plan, and he would not feel fulfilled. And having Manhattan be the one to attempt to achieve that fulfillment, and then ultimately Ozymandias realizing that he won't be fulfilled here either. He needs to get off the rock. And it's like, oh wow, I actually really like that. I think it's a smart way to introduce the character who also is able to serve the grander plot due to his presence. I like that a lot. And I think ultimately Damon's decision to not have Night Owl come back and just focus on everyone else who was still alive, I think was a smart call. Apparently he's still in jail according to the PDPD information. But that Ozymandias stuff was fun because Irons was a perfect casting too. He was a delight the whole time.
Yeah, he was just fantastic. I really loved all the scenes with him, and like I said, he just seemed to be having a ball with this role. Just seemed to be absolutely ridiculous the whole time.
The defense rests.
Yeah, I thought Regina King was good.
Oh yeah,
and she's just a class actor. But you know who I felt was a bit like maybe didn't get the shine he deserved was Tim Blake Nelson.
So Looking Glass.
Yeah, so you get him in like episode 4 and 5, really getting a lot of time.
His flashback episode was also fantastic.
Yes,
explaining what Ozymandias's plan could have done to the psyche of people at the time.
Yeah, you got to see the squid. Like it was so awesome, and I think I was glad to see his character get a bit of justice at the end. Especially after he like you said, it looked like his episode looked at how that squid following would have impacted other people, and then he kind of devoted his life to justice after that and wanting to stop the bad guys. So I felt like that was pretty cool. And also again, like the last line, like that guy talks too much, was great. I also really like Jean Smart, and I've liked her in pretty much everything she's done Legion recently, but just seeing her be like a grizzled old vet who's just very like pessimistic and worn down by her past as Silk Spectre and now as Agent Blake, and almost like work against what she popularized is very interesting. So there's so much here to like, man. Damon Lindelof, I mean, is there another TV creator? I mean, I guess probably go Gilligan up there with him.
Gilligan,
Benioff and Weiss, maybe.
Then you got to think of like the HBO people that have done multiple things, right? So it's like David Chase hasn't followed up The Sopranos. Matthew Weiner followed up Mad Men, but it was the Romanovs. If you want to hear us talk about that, it's up there. But
Simon,
Simon, because Simon has the quantity to match.
Yeah, and the world building.
Yeah,
him and Lynn. I would almost like to see what they could create together. In a sense.
I guess David Milch, he has Alzheimer's now, but he has quite the CV as well, obviously with Deadpool at the top of the list. So I think that's the elite group.
Ishmael,
we hope rising.
Yeah, definitely rising.
Even Hawley in the lesser extent as well, rising
for sure. So, but yeah, Lindelof for me is like top of the spear. I think everything he creates is so masterful and so layered, and just he
just
delivers these episodes in such a weird but delightful way. You're just engaged.
thematically, just the things that Damon cares about. Like we said
Right.
this in the beginning, but it's like the world building in Watchmen is so great, but we're not worried about having red predations explained to us.
Right.
Lube Man was cool, but like again, not the point.
Hmm.
And like it always just got back to the point while just always making you think. Yeah, I think that's a strength. And another thing too, I think this might be a little underrated coming off the finale, but um, what's Blake's comment about Ozymandias when they're gonna arrest him, and it's like, yeah, maybe, but like the world's changed. People don't think that way anymore. It's like, yeah, the justification for how Ozymandias saved the world back then, that probably doesn't work anymore.
Hmm.
I'm probably just gonna take you to task for that now. I
Yep.
love that as a bookend too.
Yeah. People keep saying that, but it never happens. Like pretty
Perfect.
just yeah, so good. Watchmen. If you for some reason didn't watch it, listen to this. Go watch it. Like just stop what you're doing now and go watch it. Leave work, go home.